My name is Caitlin Rulis, and I did my presentation on global mental illness. I chose this topic because I am a psychology major and we do learn about mental illness, and I think that it is a problem on a global scale and that it is important to learn about. So, what is a mental illness? The MayoClinic.org defines mental illness, also called mental health disorders, as a wide range of mental health conditions. These affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. Many individuals have mental health concerns from time to time, but a mental health concern becomes a mental illness when the signs and symptoms you are feeling cause consistent stress and they affect your ability to function. A mental illness can cause problems in your daily life, like at school, work, or relationships. Nonetheless, mental illness can be managed with therapy and/or medications. Here are a few examples of a mental illness: eating disorders, anxiety disorders, mood disorders, substance abuse disorders, personality disorders, trauma-related disorders, psychotic disorders, depressive disorders, and bipolar affective disorder. This is just a few of them. Of course, there are more examples, but these are the most common mental illnesses. Mental illness is a global issue. More than 300 million people suffer from depression alone. It is estimated that 970 million people worldwide had a mental or substance use disorder in 2017. HealthPoverty.org states that it is estimated that mental health conditions will affect a staggering 1 in 4 people at some time in their lives. 35 to 50% of individuals with a severe mental health disorder in the global north receive no treatment. That percentage almost doubles to 76 to 85% of those living in the south. Mental health receives a fraction of the funding compared to other diseases. And a failure to address mental health has consequences for society, which can include alcohol and substance misuse, along with abuse and gender-based violence. This graph is from ourworldindata.org. It shows the prevalence by mental and substance use disorders in the world in 2017. I chose this graph to kind of give you an idea of how many people on a global scale suffer from mental or substance use disorders. As you can see, anxiety is the highest at almost 4%, depression is the second, alcohol use disorders is the third, and so on. So it is an issue and many people are affected by these illnesses. Unfortunately, low-income countries have only 49% of organizations representing people with mental health problems. This is unlike high-income countries, which has 83% of organizations representing those individuals. In low-income countries, the rate of mental health workers can be as low as 2 per 100,000 people. But in high-income countries, there's about 70 per 100,000 people. About 80% of the global population lives in low and middle-income countries. Yet only 6% of the research on mental health has been published in index journals from these countries. Mental illness is a global issue, but it tends to affect women and those living in poverty more. Across the globe, women and people living in poverty are disproportionately affected by mental illness, and refugees among with asylum seekers are 5 times more likely to experience mental health compared to the general population. About 61% of refugees will experience a mental health crisis. Mental health disorders remain widely underreported, especially in lower income countries where data is scarcer and there is less attention and treatment. Sometimes it's difficult to wrap your head around the amount of people that do suffer from a mental health disorder or substance use disorder. So here's a picture from ourworldindata.org. It shows the share of the population with mental health and substance use disorders. These disorders include depression, anxiety, bipolar, eating disorders, alcohol or drug use disorders, and schizophrenia. As you can see, mental illness is a global issue. The darker the pink, the higher the percentage of the population. Australia, New Zealand, Tasmania, Iran, and Greenland have the highest percentage of people suffering from these disorders. And As you can see, every country shown on the world map does have a percentage of people suffering. No country has 0% of people. So mental illness is a global issue. Here are the resources I use for my mental illness as a global issue presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.